Hi everyone, welcome to Marra Family. This is Marra Cooks, and I have the chance to talk with Chef Tito Rodriguez, who's also our regional sales manager of the Southeast Division. And he's going to tell us a little bit about his experience with Marra Forni, his lifelong love affair with the restaurant industry, and the three top dishes that he prepares in Marra Forni ovens. Welcome, Tito.
Thank you. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for taking the time to talk with us today.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
So to get started, one of the things I think is so amazing about your story is that you're a trained chef. You've got a lifelong history in the restaurant industry. And so you really know the ins and outs, not only of the equipment, but also what operators need and what would serve them most in their restaurants. So give us a little bit of your background.
Well, being born in a family that used to own and operate restaurants, I've developed a passion since I was a young child. My parents always tried to pull me to the front of the house and learn the business side of it, which I eventually did. But I always gravitated towards the back of the house and being in the kitchen. I guess I like the fire, getting burned, getting cut every once in a while was attractive to me at that point when I was a youngster. But when my father sold his restaurants, I went on to culinary school, then worked in different restaurants and hotels in the South Florida market predominantly. And the opportunity to join the sales side of our industry in 2008. And I think having that culinary background helps me identify some of the needs and some of the challenges that we face in the culinary field, predominantly in the back of the house, and how can we become more efficient through technology, through the right cooking equipment based on the different concepts that are out there.
That's wonderful. And speaking of concepts, one of the things that I think is so cool is the way that the ovens work with different styles of cuisine, making them super versatile for all different global cuisines. And you mentioned earlier your origin being Spanish and Cuban, and I know I've heard a lot of rumors about your paella. So I hope that that's one of the three dishes you're going to talk about today.
It could be. We can talk about the paella. So paella, as you know, it's a Spanish dish made with rice, and there's various formats of paella. The more traditional paella, going the old days, did not include any seafood. It was basically just snails, rabbit, and duck at that point.
You're the first chef to ever mention that. I'm so glad from a historical level. Yeah. It's true, right? Just to see how the paella evolved over time.
Yeah. So, and then as folks from the mountains started making their way down closer to the water, then they would incorporate the seafood into the paella, and that became the global phenomenon as we know as the paella. Traditionally known, and we see it now as a seafood paella, but there's so many different formats, chicken, vegetable, vegetarian style paellas. And then of course the classical seafood paella, which is one of the items that I've done using the MarrForni brick oven.
That's so cool. And paella to me is a party in a dish, but we normally traditionally see it made on like a brazier or some special kind of, cooking surface that comes from the bottom, a lot of times outdoors. So how did you adapt it to the MarrForni oven? Was it difficult?
It was not. I just took a production side of it as opposed to just building it all on one dish on a paella pan or a cast iron pan of some sort. I sort of took, my experiences that I've had in the hotel world of doing production, break down as far as pre-cooking my rice, getting all my seafood together, all my mise en place all together. And once I had paella, the paella rice already done, doing a sofrito, which is traditionally onions and peppers and garlic and spices sauteed together, and then you build a flavor in the pan and you cook your rice using that with stock. I would pre-cook my rice and then incorporate the pre-cooked rice into either a cast iron or a small paella pan and build my paella with all the different seafood, mussels, clams, shrimp, lobster, fish, whatever the case. Add more stock to the pan and then just throw it inside either our rotating a Neapolitan oven or more traditional static Neapolitan oven. And we're normally at 700, 800 degrees. And for about 3 to 4 minutes, once it starts to boil, it cooks the seafood and incorporates more of that flavor. And then we just take the pan and just garnish it with some fresh peas and roasted red peppers. And it just comes out phenomenal because the flavor profile that we do generate at these high temperatures, we can't really duplicate on a saute pan or inside an oven of any kind.
That's such a great point. You brought up a lot of different things. One, that you can use two different ovens, either the Neapolitan or the rotator. And the other one of how you're going to adapt the dishes from the traditional way that they're made into the production capacity and using cast iron. I think cast iron is one of the best kept secrets because it's old fashioned, but it's perfectly modern and it translates well into the restaurant industry and it does really well in our ovens. So that's a great idea. And you got that nice crust that the paella is known for, right?
Around the edges and in the bottom slightly. The rice is already cooked at that point. We're just making sure that the food is cooked and it generates that flavor profile into the rice. But you've got to start building that flavor profile from the beginning with the sofrito and cooking the rice the right way with the right stock. So that way it has already a bold flavor going into it. And then when the seafood releases its juices and its flavors, then you just intensify and fortify that flavor in the pan that we use.
That's a great tip, Tito, because, whether you're cooking at home or however you're cooking, whatever dish you're making in the world, to have a flavor base or a sofrito. In Italian, also, they call it the sofrito with two Fs. And of course, in French, you're the mirepoix. But just to throw everything in the oven at one time will give you one result. But if you, like you said, use a little bit of ingenuity in the beginning, have a little bit of patience and then develop that. By the time the next group of ingredients go into the oven, you're going to have like an explosion of flavor. So good point. So dish number one, Valencian paella. Dish number two?
Dish number two, sticking with the Spanish and the Cuban heritage, is a twist to what is known in the Italian world as shrimp scampi. So it's gambas al ajillo, which is just shrimp. Yeah. Very good. So I take the cast iron, and I love cooking with cast irons inside our ovens because you think of the old world traditional way of cooking with fire. We really do much different than that, just involving a little bit of technology with a gas burner or a control panel to control more of the temperature inside our cooking dome. But if I have a cast iron that's nice and hot from inside the oven, add a little olive oil, throw my garlic, throw some shrimp, right away it starts to roast and sear off. I hit it with some water and fresh herbs. I throw it in the oven for literally a minute and a half. I take it out. I finish it with some fresh parsley and a little bit of salt and pepper, and I build it sauce right on that cast iron skillet. Makes for a great appetizer. Makes great to toss over a plate of pasta, or just as a simple tapas style for breaking and sharing with your friends and family at the dinner table.
Those are so irresistible when they come out of the oven. They're really succulent and plump. What temperature did you have those at?
We were cooking at 750 degrees. That's why the shrimp only took about a minute and a half. And I was using a fairly decent sized shrimp. We were using, I think we were using 2120. No, I'm sorry. We were using 1620s. I apologize for that. When we did the shrimp scampi, but since the pan is hot, the cooking starts immediately when the shrimp is in the pan, and it starts to sear and create that flavor profile that we're looking for. Once we add the garlic with the olive oil and the shrimp in the pan already, that garlic starts to roast off immediately. Now you got to do this quick because when it burns, it's no good anymore. So you got to do it quickly. Have your white wine ready. Hit it with the white glazes. You create the liquid. You release some of the fond from the bottom of the pan, and then for a minute and a half, whether it rotates for a minute and a half or you just place it inside the oven and move it out. About a minute and a half to 2 minutes max, depending on the size of your shrimp. And then at that point, we finish with some fresh parsley, some butter, salt and pepper, and a little lemon juice. And it's ready to serve at that point.
It sounds absolutely amazing. And that's such a great addition to a menu, because restaurants can make them quickly. They're very popular and nutritious and delicious. Do you have a preference over whether you're using gas for this or wood, or you've used it in all different types of ovens?
I've used it in both formats. I've even used it in the hybrid format with gas and wood, and the result is still the same. Some will say that you get a little bit of a different flavor profile when there's wood incorporated inside the oven. But since cooking with such high heat temperatures, the cooking time is so quick. It just happens so fast that it whether you're using gas or wood gas, the difference there won't be much of a difference at that point.
I'm so glad that you pointed that out, because I get that question a lot too. And I think a lot of times there's a mental association with what we smell from the wood. And we're thinking that adds to the flavor. But as you mentioned, high temperature, quick flash cooking, a minute and a half, it's not really going to make a big difference. But it's
No.
still nice to have for other reasons.
But it does. The
Wonderful.
wood burning, a lot of our customers ask what's the difference between wood and gas. And there's not
Mhm.
much difference as far as the cooking quality, the end result. But it's
Right.
what customers smell the moment they walk into the dining room. There's nothing like wood burning, So when
Exactly.
that essence, that aura, that appeal to wood burning, there's a psychological effect that takes place that you think that everything will taste, great. And it does. No doubt.
Definitely.
But there is
And
more.
a nod to history also, because so many of the historical recipes are made with wood.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And what was the third dish that you appreciate the most of your time shooting the videos here, Tito?
I love cooking steaks inside our oven. Obviously, pizza is the driver. We're known as the
Sure.
pizza manufacturer. But we're so much more than that, because again, the high temperatures that we cook, the flavor profile that we're able to generate, particularly in any cut of red meat, whether it's filet or New York strip or ribeye, bone in or bone out, or skirt steak is one of my favorite cuts of meat, because it's so
Right.
cool. The marbling in the skirt steak is
I'm
pretty.
going to guess you made carne asada with that skirt steak.
I didn't. I have done it before, but what we did was I did a traditional South American skirt steak, un churrasco, and just mashed it with a little, fresh chimichurri, and then did some potatoes. So the skirt steak is so versatile, where you really don't need to season it or marinate it. We just add coarse salt right before it goes into the skillet. But folks, depending on what region you're in, whether it's the Caribbean or in South America, they will do some sort of citrus marinade to the meat to add a little bit of a different flavor profile that's particular to the region. But if you go to South America, predominantly they take their cut of meat, add salt, and either grill it or sear it at that point. So that's exactly.
I love it.
We took the meat, we had the cast iron skillet nice and hot, a little olive oil, salt, threw it on the skillet. It took about 3 minutes to cook from raw to fully cooked to a nice medium rare. The char that we get from the cast iron that it develops the moment the meat hits the pan, we can't duplicate that flavor profile on a standard oven or a standard grill. So once the steak came out, we let the meat rest. I sliced it and we just poured a little bit of the chimichurri, which is basically fresh parsley, garlic, vinegar, salt, and pepper. You could add some chiles to it. You can add some oregano to it, but the base of the chimichurri is just those basic ingredients that I had just mentioned. And then we served it with some roasted potatoes that I had pre-steamed earlier, and then cooled them down, marinated them a little bit with fresh herbs, garlic, salt, and pepper, and olive oil, and then just flashed them inside the oven for about 3 minutes together with the steak. So the steak and the potatoes cook together in the same pan, and the potatoes absorb some of the juices that the steak is releasing inside the pan, and the dish came out phenomenal.
Everything sounds so amazing. And Tito, what I love so much about what you discussed is that each of those three dishes, even though they're true to your Spanish and Cuban origins, they can also be kind of changed up a little bit. In that way, if someone wanted to make them with a little bit of a Greek influence, with a little bit of an Italian influence, they could still use those kind of same methods in the ovens and have great results. So those are really wonderful, wonderful recipes that you chose.
Thank you.
Yes. And is there anything else that you would like to talk about in terms of the versatility of the ovens, or some insights that you see every day from being on location, and maybe a solution that works for your customers that you see over and over again, but that people don't know about?
The biggest thing that we see in the marketplace is, what else can we do? This is the typical question that I get from either customers looking to purchase our equipment or existing customers that are using our equipment, is what else can we do with the oven? And that's a fun question for me, because there's so much more that we can do. And the whole goal as a restaurant operator, the goal is to make money. You want to satisfy customers with great food, but at the end of the day, you're in business to be profitable. So having a piece of equipment that can generate, a different revenue stream, because you can now create different menu items based off the cooking temperature that you have the oven set at. So if the driver is pizza as an example, but what else can we do? Well, let's look at your menu. You've got shrimp, you've got potatoes, you've got vegetables, you've got kebabs, you've got so many different things that we can drive out of this one piece of equipment to help you amp up your food revenue sales, or even just create different menu items that can help generate more revenue. I was with a food truck operator coincidentally yesterday, and we were about what else can I do out of my oven. Obviously, he's doing pizzas, but he's got burgers and chicken wings and this and that in the menu. So we talked about the chicken wings. He's deep frying them, but at the end of the day, he's talking about, a lot of waste. Mm-hmm. So I talked through his process. What are you doing? We incorporated another technique of cooking that is nothing to do with MarrForni, but it lends itself very well to what we do, especially with the high heat and the sous vide style cooking. So he start now cooking sous vide his chicken wings. Instead of deep frying them for about 15 to 20 minutes, he's going to either flash fry them or now offer his customers a more healthier alternative and having them roasted inside his oven that's inside his food truck. I think he's going to
generate amazing
that way, and it's going to affect his bottom line because he's not going to have much more waste.
Right.
So it's a fun conversation to have every day, and every operator will have different challenges, obviously different menus and different concepts, but the possibilities are almost endless with what we can do.
Definitely. Yeah. Chef Tito, you're such a wealth of knowledge. And in closing, I just wanted to thank everybody for watching us today. And I also wanted to thank you for spending so much time with us and giving us all of these great insights. And in closing, I would like to just remind everybody to join us on LinkedIn. We have a MarrForni Nation group. So if you join the group, you can converse with amazing people like Chef Tito and everybody here at MarrForni, and really, get a lot of questions answered and just get to know a lot more about the great options that we have with the ovens. Thank you again, Chef